Hi, I'm Jackie Bernardi, and I want to welcome you to my studio. Today's video is a little bit different than most. In that, I was filming a completely different video today. I was working on the giant oyster collage that I've been working on for, well, almost a year now. I've only just started the collage, in fact, today. Up until now, I was working on the ideas for it. I was working on the background. I was working on completely refreshing my studio so I had a wall large enough to work on this project. The project itself is intended to be a 6 foot 6 foot mixed media artwork, primarily collage of an oyster. And it's taken darn near an act of Congress to get this going and get it done because I didn't have any space to work on it. Well, I finally made the space, which is awesome. However, as I started working on the actual collage today, I ran into a problem. And before I get into that problem, I want to share with you that if you don't know what I'm talking about the Giant Oyster Project, I will link in the description to the series of videos that led up to this moment, right? Where we're actually getting to the collage part of this project. And one of the things that I wanted to be able to share with all of you and express with you is that as you amass piles of paper, as you're painting papers and doing all the really fun videos and techniques that I teach, you're always asking for, well, how do you use them? Right. And I wanted to be able to show you that in this giant project because I will use a ton of paper in this giant project. So this morning I started the collaging and I was very happy and I was moving right along. And about 2 hours into it, I realized I was using all the really beautiful papers, the papers that would most likely be used for finishing collage, meaning like paper like this. So you've got this beautiful hand-painted patterning with these gorgeous colors in here. And the paper that it's on is medical exam paper, crepe style medical exam paper. Again, I link to everything in the description, so please don't worry about writing that down right now. You can get to it in the description. The magic about crepe style medical exam paper is that under the right conditions, which is getting it wet using gloss medium, this paper will go completely 100% transparent. So if you have a solid, this will be a bad example right here, but it's going to be my example. If you have a solid color and you put this on over, and let me actually get this wet. There's no gloss medium, but you'll get the point, right? It just very subtly changes what it goes over, right? So I would call this like a finishing paper. Well, the problem was I started collaging and I was using all these beautiful finishing papers as the base layer. And I was so into what I was doing while I was doing it that I wasn't really paying attention to that. And so I used a lot of the papers that I would have wanted to have used for the finish coats. And I was not using a lot of papers that I would like to use at the bottom that would add a lot of character and a lot of definition to the different parts of the oyster. So right now I'm taking a time out from the collage. I'm going to make some papers. I'm going to paint some papers here, all different types, but that are going to be used on this collage, all right? So plot twist, here we go. Okay, so I am going to start by using this gel plate. I'm only using the gel plate really at this moment as a sort of a palette and also kind of just a workspace. And I'm using some, I can't get my acrylic inks open. There we go. I'm using some acrylic ink here. I'm just going to pour it onto my gel plate. Yes, you can use acrylic inks on your gel plate, and actually it's pretty cool. And one of the things that I did notice in going through my piles and piles of paper, in fact, to give you an idea, like this is just barely the start of the papers that are in here. I'm using a canvas board actually as my paper tamer. And I have it on a small table over by the Oyster collage. You'll see that next week or whenever this collage video goes out. For sure, you'll see that. But I wanted to give you an idea of what I'm doing here. So I just put some acrylic ink down. I'm just going to spread it out a little. I love having these little black dollops of color on pieces of the medical exam paper because these make terrific shading options when you're doing collage. Of course, my hands are going to get filthy and I am all out of gloves, so I'll just use this paper towel, all right? So these may not look like much to you, and that's okay. But you will see in the collage stages that we will use this type of collage paper probably more than any other with little patterns like this because it makes for great transitions between colors and shading and so on. So you'll see me go off camera frequently. I've got to put these papers over in a place where they can dry and I won't step on them. Okay, and now I've got some of my Super Pearl Gold by Nova, which, as many of you know, is maybe my all-time favorite acrylic paint, just because the Super Pearl Gold is magic. It shape shifts, it makes new colors, it's just incredible. And I do really, really enjoy using it. So I'm just going to spread that. Look at what it's done when mixed with that black ink, and it makes this super sheer, gorgeous, goldy, brassy kind of color. I'm going to spray a little bit of water on it to make it a little looser, right? Look at that. It's just making some neat little patterns. Now, here's the truth about collage papers. Even for a giant project like this, a little bit goes an awful long way, and that's just the truth. You don't have to amass hundreds and hundreds of pieces of paper. I need more paper because this is extraordinarily large, but what I'm saying is when you create a piece of paper like this one here that is highly specialty, you don't need tons and tons of it because you will actually probably only use itty bitty strips, right? You'll just tear up little bits of this. Look how gorgeous that is. And you will see these papers get used in the collage for sure. I'm just making more today, and I thought, well, this would be a great opportunity to show you what I'm doing with it. Right here, I have some Titan Pale Green. I don't know how much of this green I'm going to use because there's really not an awful lot of green in my idea of this oyster. However, I have it right here and I love this color to pieces. So I'm just going to move this around with my silicone wedge. You could literally use any tool. I'm using the continuous spray bottle of water as a tool to create this separation of the paint. So it's more like, so it's more like a dye than anything else. Now, to show you the difference, I am going to just use some white copy paper, just the regular paper that you put through the printer, and I'm going to pull this up, and you'll see you don't need to have the medical exam paper to get these really beautiful patterns. Oh gosh, look at that. And if you look real carefully, you can see that shimmer that's coming up from the Super Pearl Gold. Like, that's gorgeous, and that can be used in collage. This just won't go transparent, which is no big deal. As a layer in the collage, it doesn't have to be transparent, right? Not at all. But I wanted to show you, here, let me grab this other one that I just pulled before it, right? So here it is. This paper won't go transparent, but this one will. And if it weren't already, let me see if I can spray it a little. I don't want this paint to start running, but I do want to show you the effect. Okay. So if I lay this down on top of this, see, you can see all that gorgeous green gold below. I've not used the gloss medium, so you can't get the full effect here, but I think you can see pretty well that we have beautiful layers of texture being built up just by these pieces of paper. Okay, that's all I wanted to show you with that, because I know many of you will have a very challenging time getting your hands on medical exam paper. It's the stuff that I use is not available everywhere in the world, which is really unfortunate. But I do have in my private community, I do have a global list of resources for this paper. It's not every country in the world, believe me, I wish it were, but it's a lot of countries. And if you live near one of those countries, perhaps you can have it shipped to you. I don't know, but to get your hands on that, just join my private community. The link is in the description below, and you can find out where to get it in your community. All right, let me grab a pair of shears. This paper that I am going to use now is actually wet strength tissue paper. And wet strength tissue paper is more readily available throughout the world. The stuff that I use is by a brand called Carnival, and they are based in the UK. And this paper will go pretty darn translucent. All right, not transparent like the other paper, but translucent. And I did a study in a video a couple years ago, and I'll link to that in the description as well. I did a study on different papers and their translucency values, right? It's a great video to take a look at if you're wondering what types of papers will go transparent or translucent or will really up the game of your collage. So I highly recommend that you go watch that. But one of the papers that I tested was the wet strength tissue paper, and I love wet strength tissue paper. It is so strong when it's wet. You could put this, I think you could probably put the wet strength tissue paper in a bathtub for a week and then decide to use it on something, and it wouldn't fall apart. I mean, it's really strong. I don't really recommend that you do that. I'm being a little facetious here, but it's an idea anyway. So what I just did is I took some of the Blick fluorescent pink fluid acrylic, and I mixed it in with that super pearl gold. And I don't know if you can see how gorgeous this color is. I'm hoping when I start pulling it up that you will be able to see the stuff that is making it so unique. So this is what I call the skinny brayer. I don't know what it's really called. Probably a wallpaper type brayer. And it was introduced to me by another artist here on YouTube, Trina. She's wonderful. I'll also link to her down below. But anyway, ever since I've had my hands on this, I absolutely love using it. I love using it in a lot of different ways. But for right now, I'm just creating some sort of directional texture points. You know, this paper may get used in the collage. It may not get used in the collage. I don't know, but I'm just giving myself all sorts of options, really, because what happens when you are collaging is if you're thinking really hard about it, you're going to get stuck. I'm just going to tell you right now, it's very easy to get stuck in collage. But if you let yourself go and not focus really hard on pattern, getting every pattern next to each other just right and all that, you'll find that you get a far more interesting collage. And so by creating like an odd paper like this, I'm giving myself the option of later using this somewhere in the collage and being surprised by it. In fact, what I'm going to do, instead of using one of the translucent papers right now, I'm going to I have this book of music, and I'm just going to tear something out from it and use it to pull up some of this paper. And now look, like this is the ghost print from that. Not really the ghost print actually, but that's kind of cool. And that can be used in this collage because this pink will very much work in this collage. There's no doubt about that. I'm going to hit it with a little bit of water because it is kind of dry. And just run my brayer through here, create kind of an interesting multi-directional pattern. This is my favorite kind of day right here, I'll tell you that, is just playing with the paints and painting some papers. It feels really good to let loose like this. It's been a minute since I've done any paper painting, so it feels really good. All right, I'm going to pick this up with some copy paper. And although this is a gel plate and technically this is jelly printing, I'm really looking at this more as paper painting today. It doesn't really matter. It's just semantics. I'm just using the gel plate largely as a palette and just doing some cool stuff on it while I'm at it. You do not need a gel plate to paint papers. You also don't need a gel plate to do monoprints. I love the gel plate. I don't know how many gel plates I have. I've got a lot, all different sizes, and I use them for very different things. But I'm just here to say you could put a piece of plastic down on your table, your kitchen table even, and you can just start painting papers directly on the table. Cover it with plastic, please, or something. Cover it with something. Don't come after me if you don't do that and you get mad because it didn't work out well for you. All right, I think I want to pull in a darker color. I feel like that will be Payne's Gray. Payne's Gray I use a lot as my version of black. Okay, so this here is just fluid acrylic Payne's Gray. It's not black at all, but I like it as black because sometimes just using black is just kind of boring, right? So allowing yourself to add in different colors is kind of a fun idea. Okay. Okay, I'm going to put this to the side for now, let this dry up a little bit, hit this with some water, and where's my brayer? Okay, here's my brayer. And even though I am painting papers today, I'm calling that painting papers today, you'll rarely see me use a brush because I don't use brushes in my work that often. No reason. I just really enjoy the patterns and the shapes and things that happen when you use different types of tools for that. Oh my gosh, look at how fun this musical paper is. And I can use that anywhere in the collage and it's going to add massive visual interest. Oh, that came out great. Super happy with that. And I know some of you may be looking at that saying that is not great looking at all. And what is she talking about? But the type of collage that I do, I just like to have a lot of varying, not just textures, but like the text element there. I just absolutely love that there's going to be some text element in this. In fact, I'm going to pull up some more because I really liked that. In fact, I think I'm going to do several sheets where I paint on these musical pages because I can use that. Oh, yeah. I can use that as a theme that I can use that to direct your eye around the collage as it's being built. So if that does not make sense to you, stay with me because I'm going to show you. For sure, I will show you. Okay, so and I'm going to get this a little bit wet. That was just a little too light for what I'm looking for. You know what I think I'm going to do? I think I'm going to grab some alcohol also. So here's another technique that you can use. In this continuous spray bottle, I have alcohol, just isopropyl alcohol. And I'm going to sprinkle it on here. And you can see it makes these gorgeous blooms, like voila, right? And those gorgeous blooms, when I put the paper on it, they're going to come up on the paper. And there's actually some collage pieces that I already have on the Oyster that have this. Oh, yeah. I mean, that's fantastic. It's just visually interesting. It's maybe not the prettiest piece of paper that you've ever seen if you're just looking at it as a piece of paper. But I am not looking at it as a piece of paper. I'm literally looking at it as fodder for my collage. Okay, and that is so pretty the way that it is that I think, hang on a second, I'm going to hit the side with a little tiny bit of water and then can somebody tell me what I just did with my isopropyl alcohol? Oh, I put it back on the shelf? How unlike me. Right? You spray this onto already wet with water, and it activates even more so than just spraying the alcohol onto the plate. Really fascinating. So I am going to pull this up with some medical exam paper because this kind of pattern, I definitely want to go transparent. It's just so pretty. Did I capture it? Oh, yeah, look at that. Right? So if you can imagine this over like the meat of the oyster, this could create some shading and shadows and the rounded out parts and all. So even though I'm not being hyper intentional about the papers that I'm creating today, I am paying attention for potential uses and opportunities for them. Does that make sense? Okay, hang on. Now, I do have an idea for this collage, and it's, even for me, it's a little bit radical. I don't know if I'm actually going to do it or not, but I don't know if you watched the video a few weeks ago where I had taken a year's worth of collage strips and I put them on a hardboard panel. And this was massive amounts of layers built up over a year. And then I sanded it all down. Oh my gosh, it is so gorgeous. I am sort of thinking about doing something similar with this oyster. If you have an opinion about that, let me know. But I'm not talking about as the finished look for the oyster. I'm actually thinking about doing that as one of the underlayers of the oyster just to add tons of visual interest. So if you have an opinion about that, I really want you to let me know in the comments below. Because oh my God. Oh, look at that piece of paper. Do you see that? I hope you can see that. Holy cow. That's beautiful. Okay, remember, that was Payne's Gray. I got it wet with water, so it was a very wet mixture, and then I sprayed alcohol in it. The alcohol made it fisheye even more and set it. And then I went over it with the Super Pearl Gold and used a piece of the copy paper to pull the whole thing up. Look at that. Oh, that is happiness right there. Now, that was an opaque layer. I would not want to use my medical exam paper or my wet strength tissue paper for opaque layers. And the reason for that is copy paper is so cheap. And since the layers are going to be opaque anyway, why would I use a paper that really should be used, or not should be, but really excels at going transparent or translucent? All right. So these are just the things that I think about when I'm creating. And, you know, it would be awesome for you to think about also, because art supplies are expensive and we don't need to use the best things we have for everything that we do, right? I mean, the truth is I could be doing all of this not even on copy paper. I could be just using this dum-dum roll white paper that I cover my table with. the kind of stuff that is on like kids' easels, kids' art easels, right? You don't need expensive paper to do this in collage. You really don't. I mean, it's awesome if your paper is acid free. And for those of you who want to argue with me about keeping things acid free and all of that, I just won't go there because honestly, I don't expect any piece of art that I create to outlive me. If it does, awesome. I'm not at all worried about it. So I do not focus on whether I use archival products or not. The truth is I largely use extremely high quality paints because I have them. The papers I use are mostly acid free. And in fact, if you can believe it, the medical exam paper is archival and acid free. So you can use that with wild abandon. But things like my copy paper, this copy paper does happen to be acid free. Not every copy paper I have is. I just don't worry about it. If you're concerned about it, that's awesome. You do you. But I'm totally fine with my stuff is going to hold up for a really, really long time. And I know that. So I just don't worry about it. Okay. So these will make some really interesting points inside the collage. All right. So it's really interesting. I wouldn't have guessed that I would have gone down the pink and blue route today. So I'm going to switch it up a little bit, and I'm going to pull in some oranges and some like sort of skin tone ish. Ish. And I'm going to neutralize that. I'm gonna, pardon my grammar, gonna. Okay. Also, I do not worry about cleaning off my brayer, like cleaning it, while I am in a painting session. I do have some place, it's not near me right now. It should be. I have a roll-off book where I take my brayer when it's wet and I roll it off during a painting session, but I don't clean my brayers or any of my tools really typically while I am in the middle of a session. And the reason for that is sometimes you get seriously the most beautiful patterns that come off your brayer when it's not clean, when it's started to dry a little. There's this, I don't know, this gorgeous little piece of time that can show up while you're creating by not cleaning your tools while you're going. And some of you need to clean your tools while you're going. In fact, for some of you, that will be all that you can think about. That's okay. That's not me, but that's okay. You know what I'm saying? The great thing about art is really nobody gets to tell you what to do. You can do whatever you want. I mean, it's wise to take some advice for sure, but you don't have to. You don't have to take my advice. I'm just showing you what I'm doing. And I hope it, resonates and encourages you to try things that you wouldn't ordinarily. This tool here, it costs almost nothing. I got it on Amazon. I will link to it, of course. It creates the most fun pattern. I may have put a little bit too much water on this, so I am actually going to pull this with some of the medical exam paper because that will absorb it. If you have medical exam paper and you haven't used it yet, or you're concerned about which side to use, with my crepe style medical exam paper, one side is crepey feeling and one side is sort of smooth feeling. It doesn't matter. I use both sides to pull prints, to paint on. I get the same effect on both sides. So use either side. I wouldn't worry about it. I really wouldn't worry about it, actually. This is kind of cool, but it's so one-dimensional that I am going to go back in. I'm going to get it wet. I'm going to go back in with some of this Payne's gray that I have built up on the plate here. I'm just going to go right up here with it because I'm going to do an indirect method of applying this right here. And I'm going to pull that up on the same piece of paper that I just did. Okay. Okay. And I just think that is more interesting now than it was when I only had this salmony color on there. Okay, I'm going to put this to the side to dry. And while that's going, let me get some of this dried off Payne's Gray here. And I'm going to put down some of the Super Pearl Gold. This combination, the Super Pearl Gold and the Payne's Gray, just makes a gorgeous, I don't even know what color to call it. I'm going to say like a platinum-y color. It's not really platinum, obviously, but it is. I wonder if you can really see it the way that I'm seeing it. I hope so, because it's cool. I'm going to go back in with a super fine mist of the water and go in heavier with the alcohol. And in fact, I'm going to use this bottle of isopropyl alcohol. The difference between these bottles is that this one creates really large random alcohol drips, and this one creates a super fine mist. So use what you have, or, find, oh gosh, it's not even working. So I'm just going to pour it onto my hand and sprinkle it on. I wonder why that's not spraying. I hate it when that happens, don't you? Okay. I don't know about this camera here. I don't know if I've been blocking it with products or not. If I have been, I apologize. Okay. Look at how that bloomed out. Oh, God, that is so pretty. All right, I am going to use some wet strength tissue paper to pull this off for no other reason than it just happened to be right next to me. I don't care about getting all of it. In fact, I love having these areas that don't pick anything up. That makes for really interesting patterns later. You'll see. I promise I'm going to show you everything because that's the way I roll. This here is a piece of paper. There's actually already paint on here. You can hardly see it. I don't know what this is from, but that is Titan Buff in a really interesting pattern on it. I'm just going to pull it up. I don't know what is going on with my grammar today, but when you come here to my studio, you get the real me. Oh, yeah. Look at that. Wait till you see how I use this in the collage. It's magic. What this paper does. It really is. And that's not to say that this paper or the music sheet paper is not magic also. It all is, I think. I mean, oh my God. That patterning is fantastic. How did I do that? If I had had my art journal out and I was taking notes as I was doing all this, I would have known how I did that exactly. I'm pretty sure it was just some rolled out. Oh my gosh, I really wish I had this on the medical exam paper. I'm going to try it. I think it was just rolled out Payne's Gray. The color doesn't matter at all, like really. I mean, the fact that it's fluid acrylic might matter, but the color doesn't matter. So I just had it here, so I'm grabbing it. I'm just going to roll this out. And I'm pretty sure that was a pretty thin roll that I had because I had pulled this paint tool through it. Oh, wait do you see? Oh, I've got to grab those. there's a texture tool I'm going to introduce you to in a second that one of you out in the audience introduced me to. And thank you, thank you, thank you. I can't remember who it is right now, but thank you from the bottom of my heart, because the texture tool that I'm going to show you is going to blow your minds. And I am not exaggerating. Okay, so I'm just taking the spray water. I feel like it was spray water that made that. Uh-oh. I may have put too much water on this now, but it wasn't. What made this pattern? Well, the good news is we can all rewind. When this video is over, you can rewind to when I created that strip at the top of the gel plate with just the Payne's gray paint, and we can figure out how I did this exactly. This is all coming up a little too perfectly, actually. So I'm going to let it, I'm actually going to let that settle for a second, and give me 1 second while I go and get the magic tools. Okay. These are so awesome. Okay. I don't even want to pull them out for you until I have something I can put on them. Let me pull this up. On the off chance that this does work, I'm going to use the medical exam paper. For those of you that don't know what the medical exam paper is, it's literally the paper that, at least in the US, when you go to the doctor's office, this is the type of paper that's on the table when you go to sit down on it. All right. So it's just the stuff that you sit on, they tear it off the roll and they throw it away once you're done with your appointment. If you're on good terms with your doctor, you could ask them, or one of the nurses, you might get better luck with a nurse. You can ask them if they could spare a roll for you, and you can give it a try. I can't guarantee that the roll that they have is the same stuff that I use, but it's likely very similar. And that would be a great way for you to test out the transparency and the translucency. Hey, pretty cool, huh? Gorgeous. All right, that didn't replicate that speckled pattern that I was so in love with from before, so I don't really know what to say about that. I don't know how I created that. I will go back and rewatch that so I can try to figure it out. But I'm not worried about it. There will be other beautiful papers. Not because I'm making them. There'll be other beautiful papers because that's just what happens when you spend, a decent amount of time painting papers and you just experiment as you're going, right? Okay. So this will be terrific too to use as marks in the Oyster collage. Alrighty. Oh yeah, I was going to show you the incredible tool that I love so much, and it's so inexpensive, and wait till you see the gorgeous textures it makes. I'm going to, if this were the very first time that I was using the tools that I'm about to show you, I wouldn't be using a lot of paint. I'd probably just be using some cheap black paint to see what it would do, but I already know what this does. So these tools, let me find some copy paper. These tools, I think, are designed, they're soft rubber, and I believe they're designed for people with anxiety. It's a sensory thing, maybe not with anxiety. I don't know. I'm not a medical doctor. Don't take this as advice. But one of you beautiful people out in the audience told me about these, and I got them because pretty much you tell me about something, I'm going to get it. And I was stunned by the mark making that these do. I was actually going to do an entire video on these, and maybe I will at some point, but for today, I'm just going to show you how these work. All right, look at this. As a stamp, you put that on. Look at that gorgeous texture. Can you see that? Oh. And so what's happening here is I'm using the gel plate as a stamp pad. really. I mean, honestly, that's kind of what I'm using it for right now. So I'm just pulling up the paint and just tamping it on here. Isn't that beautiful? Um, and as I keep going, I mean, I could have done this on the medical exam paper. In fact, I will. Okay, look at that. Paint's drying out a little bit, and if you keep changing the direction of your little shape maker, right, you can get all this really beautiful texture. And then the bonus round here, hang on, let me go. And again, I'm just moving my arm around like this so it's just more visually interesting later. Look at this. Hang on. Hold, please. Again, medical exam paper, but you could use copy paper. You could use tissue paper. Be careful with the tissue paper. You could use rice paper. You could use, I mean, oh my gosh, look how beautiful that is, that texture, right? And it's the opposite of this texture. So just know you can use this to your advantage as you're building up layers in your collage, right? So cool. So, so cool. All right. And then let me try to pull this up. I'm actually going to lay down some uh, Liquitex titanium white to clean this off. If you've never gel printed before, you may be looking at this as, oh, it's just a palette, but it's actually a gel plate for monoprinting. And I have an entire free course on the gel plate, how to use a gel plate, how to use a brand new gel plate, how to take care of your gel plate, all that. That's in my free resources community that I mentioned earlier. And you can sign up for that in the description below, but the entire course is free and it's fantastic. Thousands of people have taken it and have really gotten a lot out of it. So if you don't know much about the gel plate, I recommend that you take that. Okay, look at that, mama. Mm. Oh my gosh. Oh, I know where this is going to go. I know where this is going to go. Oh, yeah. It's so surprising to me that I'm going so heavy into the blues here today, but my intuition is telling me that this is what I need to be working on right now for this stage of oh my gosh, for this stage of the collage. And so I'm listening. All right, I'm going to try to pull up some more of this. Back to a point that I started to make earlier, and I'm not really sure if I finished the point or not. Um, this is why I mostly do voiceovers. I can control how much I'm talking. Go ahead, write in the comments. I know. But when you're creating collage papers, even for a giant collage like the one I'm working on, you don't actually need tons and tons and tons of papers. Like, I don't need a stack of 40 peachy colored papers. I don't need that. You can get the effect that you want, even on a giant collage, with just a tiny bit of paper. So when I pull up little bits like this, I mean, right now you're like, oh, that's nothing. That's trash. No, this is pure gold. There is a place for this, either in this collage or some other collage, but it's the little elements of painted papers that end up making your collages really spectacular. So, not that I want you to become a painted paper hoarder, but if you do it, you will be, because you just kind of can't help yourself. But you will use all of those beautiful, oh, wow, all of those beautiful little bits that you thought when you pulled them, oh gosh, I'll never have a use for this. I will tell you, I have had some of the ugliest papers I have ever created. and they ended up being the absolute perfect thing for just one element of one collage. Okay, I think that's going to be it for now. I've actually been working, this is about the third hour straight. I'm kind of tired. So this is going to be it for today. I'm just going to clean off this plate as much as I can right now. And then I'll call it a day. And in fact, what I might do is I might add some of the Super Pearl Gold in here just to get an visually interesting background for the little bits and pieces that are left on this gel plate. And that's the other great thing about using a gel plate as your palette. The end of the day, you get to pull up everything that was on there, right? So cool. In fact, what I think I'll do is I think I'll put a piece of wet strength tissue paper down on this. I'll leave it on for, I don't know, about an hour or so. And then I'll come back and I'll pull it so you can see, you know, what it looks like when you pull the final of the day, right? I can't do that for you right now because it's going to take a minute to dry onto here. But once it does, I'll pull it and you'll get to see. Voila, I'll be back. All right, it's been about an hour since I left this here, and we're going to pull this now and then show you some of the papers now that they're dried, right? So I'm just going to kind of ease this on back. It's giving me a little bit of a hard time with the pull on the wet strength tissue paper. That's what this is, which normally I can pull all day long and no tears, but who knows, maybe there's already a little bit of a tear on the paper. I don't know. But look at all this deliciousness. And because it is on the wet strength tissue paper, I can put this on the collage or other pieces and it will go beautifully transparent, totally restuck to the gel plate. All right, not putting it back on the gel plate. It can go beautifully transparent. So you can be translucent. It's fighting me every inch of the way. In collage, and it makes some beautiful patterning, right? So I'll show you that again in a second. So look I've just got some really beautiful patterns that can be used in all sorts of different ways to bring out texture as finishing layers for the collage. Because as you recall, I had used a lot of beautiful finishing layers for the base layers of this collage. I don't know what I was thinking. I don't think I was thinking, really. I was just in that mode of, let's get it going. Let's get some papers on here. And those were the first papers that I grabbed. And when I realized what I was doing, I was like, no, stop. You're using all the good papers for the base coat. And that, of course, is not necessary. This was that beautiful paper that we did with the Super Pearl Gold and the black, and it makes that gorgeous, like, brassy color. Some more interesting patterns that we can be using in the collage or other projects later. Who knows? All of these that turned out just so gorgeous. Like, oh, I love this so much. So much. This pattern that was made out of these little doohickeys, and the set comes with 7 of these, and they're all different textures. They're so cool. They're silicone, so the paint doesn't stick to them, or if it does stick to it, you can remove it pretty easily. I don't even know where here's the one that I was using, right? So they're just fantastic, really, really inexpensive. I've linked to them in the description if you want to get your hands on them. They make beautiful, beautiful, beautiful marks. This will all go back and see exactly what I did to make this because I don't recall. I know water was involved. I know Payne's Gray was involved. But I would have to go back and look at that exact moment to see it because when I tried to replicate it, not even sure where that paper went. It didn't come out like this. So, and this I love. So I'm happy I have it, but I'd love to be able to make more. And this is just fabulous. I love it, love it, love it. Some of the music sheets with some great colors and patterns on here, some pink, like textury stuff. Again, this was made with those silicone little doohickeys. Doohickey because I don't know what they're really called. I'll know when I put it in the description. Some more paper, and then these last two pieces that, nice bright color here and some great texture there. So I'm really happy with these for finishing pieces. I can guarantee that over the time that it takes me to complete this collage, which it will be some time, I will have use for all of these papers in here. But I want you to remember, I did ask you to tell me whether you wanted me to do that technique of adding all the papers and then sanding them down before continuing. If you want me to do that, let me know in the comments in the video, and I will see what you all say. I'm willing to try it, so let's tell me what you want to do. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. If you've liked and enjoyed any of this at all, I would really appreciate it if you would hit the subscribe button with the notification bell, and then you'll know when I continue to work on the collage. And also, just thank you for being here. Now, if you're interested in what I would watch next after this video, it's right here. And sorry about the camera.